Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel. I'm Paige, this is Seeking Alexandria, and guys, we're getting into a palette today. I'm excited. I'm a little bit like wowed by their description, and if truth be told, that's the whole reason I picked it up. Nars recently released this little bad boy right here. This is their Skin Deep eyeshadow palette. She's quite beautiful if you look at her, but what's the one thing you notice? Very neutral, very calm. I have it swatched on my arm. I'm going to insert swatches here in just a second for you guys, but I wanted to dive into this within the first 60 seconds of the video. Thank you, Nars, for acknowledging putting out this palette. Let me read you guys the description and you'll understand where I'm coming from. It says, wear it, bear it, make it yours. Expose yourself to the ultimate palette of nude shadows created for all skin tones. Now, does that explain why I'm excited about this palette? Guys, it's a neutral palette. So typically I would be like, oh, it's just shades. It's just that. But when I read their description, I was instantly so intrigued and obsessed with the fact that we finally see somebody, thank you, Nars, come out with a palette that they're acknowledging is designed to work for everyone. And at first when I looked at it, I was like, but this isn't any different. I don't understand. Like, why do you think this is special? It's just a bunch of neutral shades. But it isn't just neutral shades, and I think that that'll really reflect more so in the swatches, which I'm going to go ahead and throw up here. You can really see a ton of different undertones in this palette and depths of color, which I think is beautiful. So we have a wide range of light to deep mattes, light to deep shimmers, but then we also have a lot of different undertones. We have neutral, we have very cool toned browns. We also have very warm shimmers that like go toward that orange appeal. And I just think overall, so far, I haven't done anything more with this palette than to touch it. And I'm so obsessed with the fact that they are gearing this as a nice neutral palette that will work with everyone. I love that. Now, another thing that I do want to throw out there is that these top 4 shades in the pan are designed, it looks like, to be just large crease colors. I think you could also use them as bronzers or you could use them as brows. Truth be told, I think you could use anything in here for your brows. I did not, just because they didn't have a shade in here that I thought was like my specific color. The closest one though would have probably been a mixture of these two on the sides, these two shadows, but I just went in with my normal Colourpop in Bang and Brunette because I really wanted to focus on the shades, the undertones, and really the blendability of this palette because I think there's a lot of beauty going on here. Third thing I want to throw out there, and then we're going to jump into the eye look. When I first swatched these and was looking at them, I bet you guys are thinking what I thought, which is, are these designed to be like bronzers? These pans are larger, and from everything I see on their site, they are not bronzers. But that didn't stop me from trying it on my arm, and I don't think these would work very well as a bronzer. I did take this shade right here, which would be almost like a contour meets bronzer shade, and the reason that I don't think these will work for any type of like facial application is mainly because they're very rich in pigment. So they don't want to like feather or dust out. They don't want to blend out over a large surface as well as I think they would on a tight surface like your eye. So I think they're going to be blendable with a small brush, but as far as me trying to blend them out, I use 3 different larger face brushes like my big duo fibers that I use, and I just kicked it around on my arm just to see if I could get it to move and blend, and it just didn't want to move as well on the arm as a typical bronzer does. So for that reason, I wouldn't use them as like a bronzer or anything like that. However, there's nothing stopping you if you wanted like a really played out or like a cut bronzer, if you wanted to just keep it here and have like a really tight, intense contour or something like that, you could probably get away with that, or even a blush. But again, I would stick away from myself personally using them on the face just because I don't think it would be ideal for me to use them that way, but who's to say? I mean, everybody's a little different, and if you find your skin tone and it blends out for you, then that's cool. I just, a lot of times on my skin, if it's, no. It's just a lot of times for me, because I have such textured skin, if I put down something that's very rich in pigment that's not designed to blend a certain way, it won't blend out. It's just my skin will grab it and my texture is so intense, especially right where bronzer goes, that it's just something I tend to steer away from, again, unless it's made for that purpose. However, this shade down here, if you have medium to deep skin tone, it's like a beautiful banana shade. I bet you could highlight your under eye with that and it would look beautiful. It is a little bit deeper in color than the Essence Brighten Up powder, because this one I can use. That one I would not be able to, but I think this will make a beautiful blending medium for like the upper brow bone or the lower lash line or something like that. If you needed to sheer out any of these colors, I think it would be great for that. So anyways, let's go ahead, zoom you guys in, and we're just gonna dive into this palette. Now I have already went ahead and primed and prepped my lids. I used my Born This Way concealer from Too Faced, and then I set that down with my Maybelline Fit Me Pressed Powder in 100 Fair. Now obviously you can see based on this palette, we're not gonna be diving in doing anything too crazy or too intense. So I mainly want to see how they blend, if they blend with each other, and then I want to see as well how the deeper cool tone brown, I'm thinking maybe as like a faux liner on the upper lid, that might look kind of beautiful, and just really playing with them and playing with their texture, seeing if they work well or not, because that's really what we're in this for. Also, I'm excited to play with a couple of these shimmers because I think they're really pretty. Guys, you know me, like I'm a shimmery queen and I can't help myself. Now guys, I just realized as I went to apply these, I got too excited. I didn't tell you the price or the amount of product you get or anything like that. So I apologize. Real quick, I'm gonna run through it. So these little guys right here, these are 0.04 a piece, so the pan size is decent. And then these bigger ones, these are beefy, 0.12. So these are literally 3 times the size of the little guys, which I think is great. You get a ton of product. These are the type of shades that typically people would reach for more anyways, whether they're doing a daytime or a nighttime look or whatever. You will more than likely get the most use out of these. So I think that it's cool that they at least acknowledge that and made that a little bit bigger so you have more product you can work with. Number one. Number two, the palette is $59. I know, she's not cheap. Might as well say $60. So definitely a lot of product, a lot of money. Now obviously I'm a pale queen, so I can't speak for it working on deep skin tones. What I can say is that I appreciate the depth and the richness of color, but I want to hear from you guys if you know of anyone or if you guys yourself have tried this palette. Let me know down below and let me know if you think it's something that actually does work for multiple skin tones. Now and that's whether you're a light queen like myself or if you're a medium queen or a deep tone queen. I don't care what kind of queen you are. I want to know if you like this palette or if these colors look like something that would work on your skin tone, because I think it might be for this palette less about the color and more about the depth of color, the undertone of the color, and overall how buildable and blendable it is, because we've all seen like, oh, this is a beautiful deep tone or a rich tone to this, but like if it doesn't blend out, it doesn't work the way every other shadow works, it's useless. So I think there's a lot of different factors that go into this, but nonetheless it is $59, so she is not cheap, and we're gonna dive in and see if it's worth your coin. Now I think I want to start off with this shade right here because it is going slightly cooler and I really want to play around with that undertone in this palette. So I'm going to start there on my JH37 and I'm just going to start working it into this outer crease, but I'm going to keep it nice and tight and tucked in this area, and I'm going to build it up. So that's why I picked this brush. It's a little bit more of a blunted end, and I'm more or less wanting to try and stamp that color right there. Build it up just a freckle and then work on blending it out. Wow, this is a very pretty color. Okay. So I just took some nice time there and I worked on really blending this shade out toward the outer crease. And guys, this whole thing just blended out effortlessly, and that's all one shade. The gradient is beautiful, very blendable, it's not patchy, and it built up very, very nicely, which I quite like. Like I'm really into that shade at the moment, and that's more on the cooler side, which I think is nice. So next up, I think I'm gonna dive in to this shade right here. I'm just gonna be taking this shade and tucking it in toward the outer V, very nice and tight toward the outer crease. So right up in this area when I open my eyes, I really want to focus that shade right here. And a lot of times that works best for me if I look like down at the palette. I can really see, because I have hooded eyes, I can see exactly where I'm blending, why I'm blending, and it just makes it very easy for me to get good concentrated color right where I want it. Now real quick, I'm just going to grab this Morphe M441 brush, and it's just a big old fluffy brush, and I'm just going to mainly work those two colors together at the high crease right here, very lightly, and then lightly blend any excess over into this area just to create a nice even shadow, but I don't want to add any product. So just a plain brush and a good blend. Yes. So next up, I think I'm going to stick on this nice cool theme, and y'all know my deal. I'm going to go in, put a shimmer here. I have some glitter glue on my finger, and I think I want to follow in with this nice cool champagne shade. This is one of my favorite shades in the palette because on my skin tone, it's the lightest, which means it's really going to lighten and brighten up that inner corner. And by opening up the inner portion of the eye, it's going to help me balance like this deep smoky vibe I have going on out here. So I'm going to take that glitter glue and I'm going to apply it to my eyelid. Oh wow, that's deep. That's a lot deeper in color than I thought it would be. Okay, all right. That's all right, I can still work with this. Now I am just lightly applying this with my finger, but you know, that's my preferred method. You can use a brush, you can use whatever works for you. I just personally love using my finger to really get in there, and then I can feel the shimmer and feel my bone structure of my eye, and it just helps me place it right where I want to place it. Wow, okay, so that shade is stunning. It's a lot deeper once you pack it on and really layer it up than I thought it would be, but that's okay. If anything, I think that would just mean it's gonna work for even more skin tones, which is great. And maybe what I'll do, oh, you know what? Actually, here, let's do this. Let's take that other shimmer and pop it more so over the entire lid, so that way it kind of fans the entire area. Now what I'm going to do, just to go in and lighten up that inner area a little bit more, is I'm actually going to grab this light peachy pink shade right here, still just on my finger, and I'm going to stamp that near the inner portion of my eye and see if that'll add a little brightness, which... a little bit. It's not super bright though. But it is really pretty. Wow, that's a nice gradient. Now I'm just going to grab this light yellow banana-y shade, and I'm going to use that to blend out the crease area on this BH number 5 brush. And I just want to go in here a little bit and diffuse some of that color, just a freckle. Sometimes, guys, the key, instead of going in with other colors, is to go in with the lightest shade and just blend out what you already have. And this really was a good choice for that, because it's blending out that brown shade really nicely. So for my skin tone and my preferred aesthetic for my eyes, there's nothing bright enough in this palette to make it work for me. However, that doesn't mean this isn't beautiful. So I do want to also grab, while we're at it, and take this nice rich brown shimmer shade, which is gorgeous, and I want to throw that onto the outer V, just ever so slightly, just a little tiny bit, and blend it out just with my finger, just for a little bit more depth. I like seeing how all the shades perform and how they work together. Ooh, that's really pretty. I gotta be honest, guys, that's probably one of my favorite shades in this palette. Holy crap, that was a beautiful, instantly deep, instantly rich, beautiful ass shimmer. Oh. Then I'm just gonna take that same BH5 brush and lightly blend out that edge. Okay, now I do, like I said, want to check the density of these colors, which at this point, they are nice and dense and rich and stunning. However, I want to take this Morphe Y21, which is a nice blunted liner brush. I love these whenever I want to stamp pigment into a lash line. So we're going to grab this, and we're going to grab this shade right here, which is a deep, cool tone matte brown. It is a stunning freaking color. And we're going to grab that and stamp it into the upper lash line, wiggling it in between the lashes. So I basically want to use this color. I want to see, is it deep? How does it go on? Number 1. Number 2, oh my god, that's beautiful. I want to use it as a way to make my lashes look nice and long and full and fresh and happy. So we're just going to stamp this all the way along here. Wow, that's a beautiful color. And I'm just ever so lightly taking what's left over on the brush and taking it kind of in an upwards wing direction, but I'm not creating like a full-on wing. I'm just bringing the little bit of color I have left on the brush up in that direction, just to add a tiny bit of extra depth, and then flicking it out a little bit. Ooh, guys, that looks gorgeous. Like, what a beautiful finishing touch. It looks so polished. I didn't have to get out a liner, which, by the way, means if you're traveling or you're out and about and you don't want to pack 400 items, that means you'd be able to do even more with this, because you could totally create a faux liner with that color. And that's, oh my god, like, I love that. Now this next step is something I would normally do off of camera, but because I have very hooded eyes and very squatty eyes, both this way and this way, as you can see, when I go in with a full-on deep smoky eye, it looks very closed off. My eyes look very small. My whole area right here looks very just viced shut, and I don't love that look, so I like to go in and really manipulate the shape of my eye and do everything I can to make it look nice and wide, awake, open, all of those good things. So I'm gonna grab my Ofra Star Island highlight, which is this sexy guy right here. Now to layer down the first little bit of this, I'm gonna be taking it on my finger and just kind of popping it over this inner area and layering it up, but I'm not going in with a ton, because the first thing I really like to do is establish the shape of my eye. So I just go in with a little bit and start to tap and blend it out. You can already see, like, my eye is starting to look more awake. And then what I'll do is I'll just keep adding it to the different spots on my actual finger and blending it up into this bone right here, which this is like your upper nose bone, the part that leads down. And I like to tap a little bit of highlight right there. What it does again is it helps ride that contour, so when I look straight on, it looks very awake and very alert, as opposed to that closed off look I was having before, which, you know, just isn't my thing, because my eyes are already squatty, so they're working against me a little bit. I just love how much that opens up the eye. And this is one of those steps too with this highlight, that it's not something that takes a lot of time. It's not something that you have to have any special highlight. You don't have to have an Ofra highlight. You can have whatever your favorite highlight is. And it's just one extra small step that I wanted to throw in here so you guys could see a little bit more of like how I think through the process of putting on a deeper, more intense smoky eye and what is important to me when I do it. Like, yes, depth and blendability, those things are all beautiful and they're all needed, but for me personally, in my aesthetic, I have to have that bright inner eye. Otherwise, I just don't feel like myself. I feel like I'm sleeping. So I also want to grab real quick before I run off of camera just a smudge more of this shade and use it to blend in with that highlight just so I don't lose its presence on the lid. I love the way that this is looking. I think we're looking brighter, more awake. It will make a difference too once I have my foundation on and I go in with like an inner eye highlight. That will make a big difference. So I'm going to go ahead and do that, and I will be right back. Okay, you guys, I went ahead and I finished up the rest of my face, and I definitely have some thoughts on this Nars palette, but before I get into those, I do just want to throw out there, if you're curious, for the lower lash line, all I did was take the same 3 matte brown shades that I have on the upper outer V, and I put them on the lower lash line as well. I just wanted to kind of smoke it out, but I didn't want it to be too smoky or too intense, so I kept those darker colors toward the outermost V, and that was that. Again, nothing crazy, nothing too exciting. I didn't want it to be something where it was over the top or super dramatic, just something that continued that nice line. And then I went ahead with that same Ofra highlight in Star Island, and I hit the inner eye, the brow bone, as well as the inner lower lash line right up under the tear duct, just to keep my eyes nice, bright, and open. Now, finishing up the eyes wasn't super exciting, but I did want to throw this in here as well. Nars also recently released their Super Radiant Booster, which is basically a fun little shimmer mix-in that you can put under your foundation, mix in with your foundation, or put it on top of, maybe on the high points of your face. And it's just meant to be kind of like the Marc Jacobs Dewdrops or any of those other fun little shimmery, glowy, illuminating mix-ins that we've seen. And so I went ahead and I mixed this in with the Dior Forever that I'm testing out. And if you guys did not see my 2 most recent videos on that, I will link the one that I just put up within the last couple of days right here. That is the revamp of the Classic Forever. And then I will also go ahead and link for you the Skin Glow, which is the more glowy version of that Classic Forever. And I will link that up there. In both of those videos, I go through a wear test and I go in depth with both of those formulas. So for today, I mixed this stuff from Nars with the Dior, the Classic Forever, which has that natural matte velvet kind of feel to it, because I wanted to see if I could add any glowy, what it would do. And I've been working with this foundation a lot, so I thought it would be a good option. And here's the thing. I didn't really notice like a huge glowy difference. When I applied it, I felt like it looked weird, almost like it was separating the Dior Forever. So I don't know what's going on there. But honestly, after I set it down and like I went ahead and I powdered and I finished up, I haven't seen anything kind of come through that's indicative of any sort of illumination as of yet. Now, I do have to set my foundation and all of that, so sometimes that can play a role in it. But as of right now, I'm not noticing anything different. I do think this is the type of product that on my skin, I would have to wear it like throughout the day, and maybe as everything wore, it would be illuminating toward the end of the day. But I think I put in a pretty generous amount when I first applied it, and I haven't seen any difference. Even when it was wet and I was just freshly applying it, I didn't see much of a difference. So I'm curious. I'll keep working with it, so we'll know here hopefully in the next couple of weeks if it's decent or not. But as of right now, I'm a little underwhelmed, and I just wanted to throw that out there because I know a lot of people love like a nice radiant feel to the skin, and they love that look. And a lot of times mix-in drops like this are a great option for a glowy skin that isn't greasy or isn't oily. It's just a nice way to give you the appearance of glow and fun without having to deal with the oily side of things. So I will keep working with this and see if it's something that maybe I just need to add a little more, maybe put it with a different foundation, you know, kind of play around with that. But I just wanted to throw out there that I did use it in today's video. So all of that aside, let's go ahead and jump into my final thoughts on this Nars palette. I have a couple good, bad, yes, no type situations. So I'm going to start off and I'm just going to list them and we can kind of expand as we need to. So as far as this being on like the beautiful, blendable, buffable side, I think the quality is definitely there. Now, I am going to say Unfortunately, do I think this is my palette? No. I think this is a palette that's beautiful and, like I said, has a lot of great qualities, but I don't think that it is something that will work for my personal aesthetic or for my skin tone as well as I would look for a palette that's this price point. And even though it is good quality, this just isn't something I would reach for on the daily. And I think that that's like I said, personal preference, personal aesthetic. I like that really lit inner eye. I like a lit lid. I like everything in the center portion or the inner V to look very light and bright. And like we saw on camera, this doesn't really have that purpose for me. It doesn't have a way for me to brighten my face up. And I noticed that whether it's a shimmer or a matte, this palette really doesn't have anything that will work for my skin tone as far as that nice bright effect. I think this is a beautiful palette, and I think it's something that would work beautiful for medium to deep skin tone, but unfortunately that's definitely not me, number one. And number two, that kind of takes away the versatility that I was really excited about and looking for in this palette. Now with that being said, I do think this palette has a ton to offer, so if you are on the go, if you want everything all in one, and if these colors will work for you, and this is like your easy go-to aesthetic where you can play around and kind of bounce between the cool and the warm, and you can have everything you need to really shape and define that whole area, I think this is a very valuable palette. But yet again, it did say on the website this is for the eyes as well as the brow area, meaning they want you to be able to define your brow, and part of defining your brow is being able to highlight and or shape that upper arch. Now, whether or not you want to go in there with a bright shimmer or a matte, that's personal preference. Some people hate putting a shimmery highlight like what I have right here. Some people hate having that in their brow bone, and that's totally fine. So a lot of people, if that's you, you'll use a matte version or a matte shadow, something that can still go in there. There's no shimmer, but it's still that brightening effect. And so for me and my skin color, this palette didn't really accommodate that because I need such a light shade, whether again it's a shimmer or a matte is irrelevant. It just doesn't have any type of a light shade that I can use to shape out my brow bone and shape out my inner eye and really control that contoured effect that I think a palette like this is really aiming at for anybody. I think that was the goal here. They wanted you to be able to shape and contour and redefine like the bones and the structure and the chiseledness of your eye and this whole region with one palette. And I do think that that's a great idea. I love the concept. I love that it's designed to be so inclusive. And this is a very inclusive palette, don't get me wrong. It's just not something that will work and be bright enough on my personal skin tone. However, like I said, medium to deep skin tones, I think that this would be a stunning travel palette and all around like go to dive in. You can have everything that you need and then some here because these are beautiful, blendable, super amazing rich in pigment shades with little to no kick, little to no fallout. They were a little dusty. They felt a little bit dry, and I noticed that when I swatched them a lot more than when I worked with them. But again, they are very rich and they did work nicely. So as far as like the quality of it, I don't really have anything against it. My biggest issue is just that it didn't work for my skin tone more than anything. And I think that that's really what it is for me. It's not that it's a bad quality, it's just that for my skin tone, it's not my thing. And when you're going to invest in an item that is $59, so you might as well say $60 for this palette, you really are going for a very specific, like, this is why I'm buying this. I want it because it's going to be a travel palette, or I want something reliable. I want something that's going to do this or accomplish this. And this palette just, it doesn't hit any of those marks for me because it's quality, which is great, but it doesn't hit, like, if I wanted that travel palette, I couldn't reach for this option. You know what I mean? And I have so many other options that do work for me. And I wanted to really kind of round this video out with that idea that there is going to be a different palette that works for everyone. And I talk about this in a ton of my videos, that just because something doesn't work for you specifically, if it's designed for multiple people, that's okay, because I'm so fair. There's a ton of stuff that's geared and marketed for light to fair people. Like, it's totally fine that one palette that will work for a whole spectrum that is overlooked so often. It's fine that there's a palette that doesn't work great for me, but does work great for a whole section of people that, like I said, I think is they're undervalued and undermarketed to. So I'm very happy that this palette is as rich as it is and it does work as nicely as it does, because at least it shows that, yes, we're working on gearing toward everyone. We're working on gearing toward products that will work and pop and vamp and make everyone feel awesome and look amazing. So I'm happy as far as that goes. Yes, it sucks that it didn't work so much for me, but like that's okay. Not everything is always going to work for me. And I just think that it's a great opportunity to showcase a brand and a concept that I think was meant to be very inclusive and beautiful and blendable. And I loved the concept of this so much that I wanted to take time, go through it, talk about it, swatch it, and really dive into the good, the bad, the ugly, and all those things. So as far as me, like I said, not my personal go-to palette all the time, but I do think it has amazing, beautiful items in here that are worth checking out if you're looking for that everyday palette and you don't mind throwing some money at something that's super quality. Okay, you guys, that is it for today's video. Thank you so much for watching, and please don't forget you can check me out on Instagram and on Twitter and on Facebook, actually. They are all linked down below in the description, and all the items on my face are also down there, so if you're ever curious, you can check out the description box. I have been trying to get a lot better at making sure all of that is listed for you in case you're ever curious. And P.S. if you're trying to figure out like if you only use like one social media outlet, I do mainly put myself out on Instagram, but I'm on all three as much as I'm able to. And while you're down there, please do not also forget to subscribe and turn on your notifications. I put up videos 5 days a week. They go up bright and early, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday between 6 and 7 a.m. Northern Michigan time, which is where I am, and that is so early some days. So they go up bright and early. They are very consistent, and we go through everything makeup related that you can think of. Things I love, things I hate, product empties, get ready with me, full face first impressions, palette reviews, like you name it, we go through everything. And guys, that is it. Thank you so much for watching, and please do not forget to have a great day, night, weekend, whatever it is when you're watching this, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye. Oh my god, I'm like sweating. Why is it so hot in here? I legit think I could die. Am I like, I feel like I'm pointing the wall. Like, am I? A bitty bitty bum bum. Okay, we are a nice, fun, fresh, little. And then I did go ahead and highlight my inner V, my brow. Jeez Louise. And then I did go ahead as well and I'm sorry, what? Could you use a word, Parage? Do you know your name? Are we, hello? Are we still here? Oh my god. Okay, that was a lot. Don't forget to hit subscribe if you have not already, and hit your little bell notifications. Your little bell notifications. And then I did go ahead with that same highlight, the Ofra one in Star Island, and I hit the inner V, the brow bone, and the what in Paige? Paige? Do you need a minute? Because I feel like you do. I feel like you need to just bring it in a couple notches, because you can't speak. Now to that positive, I will to that positive. Does that make sense? And I am just applying this with my finger because this is my preferred way to provide my eyelid. Wow. Like, guys, I'm sorry. Who is this blended ass queen? Just because I don't think it would be ideal for me. But before I get into those, I just wanted to throw out that what do you think?
Ooh, like it.
Pretty, right? What is this? This is a fresh Diet Coke. Oh, yeah.
Your dad brought you.
What a good father I have. Oh, my good Lord. Why are my parents so good to me? I don't deserve it. But God, am I glad I have them. Seriously.